Hello and happy Tuesday. Happy last week of April. I hope all of my fellow Californians are as ready as I am for summer. And if you couldn't tell, I'm really excited because I've been talking about it literally every single week in April so far. Because the amount of water that we just were bombarded with, yeah, I think we're all ready. As usual, I want to thank you for taking a moment out of your day to dedicate some time to listen to today's episode. Allowing this moment of self-care to be unbothered and unjudged. Today, I want to talk about disappointments. Fear of disappointments. I know this is something many people with insecure attachment styles struggle with often, but I also realize that fear of disappointments in the eyes of mentors, family, lovers, employers, is a fear that is commonly held. For some folks, it can be debilitating. And I want to take an episode to go through this with you. First, we have to discuss the obvious. Where does this fear of disappointment actually come from? In my opinion, it's expectation. Expectation that things may not go in the way you'd suspect. Rejection. Being seen as unreliable. Failure, in essence. Humans, among many cultures, are taught of the consequence of failing and being seen as someone who is not reliable or able to succeed among a vast spectrum of things. I know I've oftentimes spoke of Alan Watts, one of my favorite philosophers, and his theories on failure and the Tao's way of living. He's gone to say that there are quite literally no such thing as mistakes in the eyes of the universe. And as mystical as that sounds, I really do agree. The idea of failure is so ingrained in our cultures and spans across the way we are taught, the way we learn, and the way we absorb information, with the idea that we must absorb, retain, and repeat everything at a certain level of comprehension that is deemed worthy of those who are labeled as leaders of knowledge. Teachers. In all of my reading and research, I have to say, over and over again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, but I do see myself as a scholar of life. Only because I feel as though I've lived enough horror to see the beauty on the other side. And I know many can relate to that. It's the idea of Nietzsche's quote, "Battle not with monsters, lest you become a monster. And if you gaze into the abyss gazes also into you." But in looking into myself and looking into others, I see how difficult the way we are raised has made us to hold confidence in ourselves. Hold confidence in the way we love, learn, and absorb. Every one of us was once a curious child with a bright light that had a curious way of learning, grasping, and sharing. Each way unique and lighthearted. But each child within us has been pressed and molded into a standard of living and life and learning that is meant to confine and has created, hence, a large amount of anxiety in waking and walking adulthood. We see things around us. We understand the silliness of taking everything too seriously, and while our inner child and inner children are trapped within the confines of a mental prison, we are made to feel anxious and left with the desire to not disappoint those around us that we may look up to. Even still, and I'll give you an example, I'm currently battling a horrendous stomach bug. And I was down all day yesterday. And this morning, my skin finally doesn't burn or feel like 1,000 needles are poking into my skin. But I do feel like a bowl of Jell-O. It's all flabby and shit. And ultimately, I plan to drag myself into work this way, unable to even pick up a water bottle. I've been dropping shit all day. So I asked myself, what would make me feel more disappointed? Not being able to do my job properly, or taking an extra day to build my strength? I honestly felt really silly going over this, tiny debate in my mind, all while imagining, do my employers feel like I'm lying about being sick? Which brought me to the topic of today's episode and what I wanted to share with you. How is it that we have come, or that I have come this far in my life and still fear the disappointment of people who don't know me? Over the health of my own body. After all, if my body's ill or if it dies, it wouldn't be able to make money at employment regardless. But we have this fear of judgment and disappointment and a slew of other things in this life that form a removed perspective that we externally would look at and think is silly. We'd sooner dissuade a friend from going into work when they're sick than we would ourselves. Why? Because we believe their health to be important. So why is it that we can't see that for ourselves? It could be, I have more bills, I have more this, I have more that. I have a higher expectation. People are counting on me, this, and this. But when it comes to care for your inner child, and it comes to being patient and loving and allowing yourself unrestricted access to the light-hearted, honest toddler trapped behind the bars of adulthood, be understanding. Allow yourself to release the expectation that is connected to another person's view of things. Understand that with anything and everything we do, there ebbs the air of judgment in the way that is unsatisfactory. And even if that's the case, hold firm in the belief that you are the best version of yourself in this moment. And if that version doesn't meet up to the expectations of another person, the problem is no longer yours to hold. The only thing that matters is that you feel you're enough. If we chase the idea that we must meet the expectations of those around us, you'll blink and find that you're chasing a runaway train long after you're wrinkled and spent. Spend this non-refundable time on earth in this body remaining kind to yourself. Treat yourself the way you treat the younger version of yourself that was unsure and scared, or sad and insecure. Nurture that younger version of yourself the way that you wanted to be as that younger child. I love you all so much. Bye-bye now.
In a stalemate, the man was no